Howdy. It's a quiet and very subdued set tonight. I didn't want to make a production out of this because I don't want to make this about me, yet it is about me because these are my thoughts. I didn't even take time to worry about making sure the air conditioner was off so there's ambient noise. I just wanted this to be me sitting down without a script, talking to the camera. And so by now everybody's heard that Ozzy has died. I don't want to try to sit down and give a biography. Ozzy did this and he went to school there and blah blah blah. I don't want to do any of that. I just want to talk about, everyone will talk about the impact that Ozzy had on millions and millions of people. Well, this is where the video is about me, because I'm just going to talk about how Ozzy affected me. And I want to preface this by saying that I haven't done anything major on the channel in a long time. Simply because we had 4 deaths in the family. The last one in March was my dad. And only now are things starting to normalize a little bit. It's gotten to a point where going over to Mom's house, the shock is over, and there's kind of a sense of normality again. And so having to deal with losing somebody that close to you is tough. Now, I'm not comparing Ozzy Osbourne to my dad. My dad was my absolute hero, role model, idol. I could say all sorts of things about my dad. So I'm not comparing the two. But having gone through that really recently, kind of gives me a little different perspective on losing Ozzy than if we would have lost him a year ago. And in some ways today has been like the past several months, going through dad stuff, sitting with the family, looking through pictures, talking about our favorite stories. That's kind of what today's been like. My son is 5. He likes Black Sabbath. He knows a few Sabbath records. He was with me when I got the news. We were running errands, and so we instantly put some Black Sabbath on in the car. And his favorite Black Sabbath song, by the way, is Electric Funeral, so he knows all about that. He loves Bark at the Moon. He knows Shot in the Dark. He knows Crazy Train. He knows Flying High Again. There's a lot of Ozzy related stuff that he knows. So we spent the day listening to the first 4 Ozzy records, solo records, and we listened to Volume 4, Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath, and Sabotage, that arc of records, all day today. And then we got to looking at some of the old posters that I had hanging up in my room. And by the way, this is the first Black Sabbath shirt that I've ever had. We weren't poor when I was growing up, but we weren't well off. And for me, sometimes it was, I could get a band t-shirt or I could just buy the record, and I would rather, if I had enough money for one, I'd rather buy the record. So this is my first Black Sabbath shirt, and this is the first time I get to wear it in a video on a very sad day, but I'm glad I have it. So that was how we spent the day. A little bit weepy, a little bit happy, just because I hadn't listened to the first 2 Ozzy records in probably a couple of years. I listen to Black Sabbath all the time, so I didn't have to worry about that. But it was a little weepy. It was bittersweet because, when you hear SATO and Diary of a Madman, you can't help but go, yeah. So yeah, it was bittersweet. And I told my daughter um, a while back. She was sad about something or upset about her friends or something, and I said, "Calliope, you just need to listen to some Black Sabbath, because anytime you're mad or you're upset, Sabbath's what'll get that funk out of you." And I've told my wife several times that Sabbath got me through junior high and high school. And think of it this way: when you're that lovesick little teenager in 8th grade, and your love interest has no interest in you, or you've got a girlfriend and all of a sudden she breaks up with you. You've got a boyfriend and he says, "Hey, I'd rather hang out with so and so." To that junior high or that high school psyche, that's devastating. And unfortunately, the reality is you just have to get over it. And there's really no remedy for it except time. Except if you put on Master of Reality and you listen to Solitude. My name, it means nothing. My fortune is less. My future is shrouded in dark wilderness. Even as a teenager who was just absolutely heartbroken and wrecked, I realized, oh, I don't have it that bad. So those Black Sabbath records actually give you someone to commiserate with. Same thing with Changes from Volume 4. Again, you realize somebody's got it at least as bad as you, and the person in these songs actually has it work. And I think that engineered coping mechanisms into me. Simply because I had those thoughts, those suggestions going through my head, and I really feel like I was able to learn how to cope with things like that. By the same token, when you're that age, you just get pissed off about something. Rather than breaking the windows in the house and breaking chairs and all that stuff, all I'd have to do is put on the Writ from Sabotage, because Ozzy spits acid in that song. That could be possibly the greatest Ozzy Osbourne vocal take of anything he ever did. Or you just put on War Pigs and you want to hear the youth of an entire generation being represented by a band and their frontman. That just speaks volumes for the rage of a younger generation. And the ability to listen to and sing along with those records, and to snarl and to spit along with them, it's a release valve. So I really feel like Black Sabbath and Ozzy got me through Adolescence. And it's not just Black Sabbath. There were other bands. Early Megadeth really got me, to spit a lot of my anger out of my face. Plasmatics. And a lot of these bands actually do have Black Sabbath and Ozzy associations, either, being friends with or touring with or other things. So music is a really powerful thing, especially to a younger generation. And, I really think if a lot of kids would just delve into some Black Sabbath, they might not be so prone to anxiety and just fits and stuff like that. But that's one of the big things about Black Sabbath that I'm really thankful for. The other thing is that I was learning to play guitar about that time, and I learned every Sabbath riff I could learn. And at one point when I was 17 or 18, I don't remember how old I was, I could play the first 3 Sabbath records note for note. And anytime Tony had those dueling solos going on different speakers, I could play this one or I could play this one. The band I was with in high school, I played a composite where you just, but yeah, I got that deep. Not only that, Geezer taught me how to play bass. And I found out later that I was able to take Geezer Butler bass lines and learn how to play walking jazz bass lines, because that's what a lot of his bass lines are. They're just walking jazz bass lines played to this frenetic Bill Ward drumming. I also taught myself how to play drums listening to Paranoid. I didn't have a drum set, but I realized, oh, the right foot's playing the bass drum, left foot's playing the hi-hat, snare drum, hi-hat or ride, and I would just play air drums. And the first time I sat down at a drum set, I could actually play rock beats. And then one of the big things Ozzy showed me as a musician is you don't have to be an amazing singer to be an amazing singer. Be yourself. Have your own voice. Do your own thing. Could Robert Plant sing higher? Yes. Although if you listen to Sabotage and Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, you might be surprised at just how up there Ozzy gets. Was Robert Plant better looking than Ozzy? Yeah. Did he have better hair? Yeah. Was he a greater vocalist? Yes. Was he a better frontman? No. I would have to say Robert Plant and Ozzy and Roger Daltrey are all like they're all right here when it comes to brilliant frontmen. They all have different singing abilities. They all have different levels of attractiveness, but they all are themselves, and because of that, they were able to be the three greatest frontmen of all time. Alice Cooper too. Wendell Williams, another example of just amazing frontmen who aren't necessarily the greatest singers. So on the musical side, that's kind of what I've gotten from Black Sabbath. While we were listening to Black Sabbath and Ozzy today, my son and I pulled out my tube of old posters, and so this is the stuff that was postering my walls when I was in high school. It's Randy Rhoads. Randy, I was a big Randy disciple very early on. So much so that when I turned 16, I started taking classical guitar lessons and went to school at the University of Miami to study classical guitar. This is going to be a hot take. I would say, as much of a Randy guy as I am, Jake is probably my favorite of all Ozzy's guitar players. And again, that's nothing. I'm not diminishing Randy in any way. It's just when it comes down to it, I like Jake's explosive, blues-driven, kick you in the face kind of power. Let's see. And speaking of, there we go. This is Bark at the Moon era. Of course, there's Jake himself. They've been in a storage tube for years, but there's that one. And again, like I said, Jake's the guy for me. I was so glad to see him play at the Back to the Beginning concert. I'm very, obviously, horrified that he got shot. And I really feel badly for him for his right hand, really having some problems with his right hand, because I had carpal tunnel syndrome in my left hand years and years ago. And playing with an injury like that's terrible. And I thought that was very humble of him. And of course, it might have been real practical too, to let Nuno take the solos. But it was just so nice to see Jake playing again. Here's another poster that was on my walls. Again, even though Jake's my guy, obviously I love Randy Rhoads. Let's see. This would be Ultimate Sin era with the the big sparkly coat. I believe he jumps out in the Shot in the Dark video. I think that's the jacket he's wearing, coat, robe, whatever you want to call it. So, you know, I don't have every poster I had from when I was a kid, but I do have a bunch of these. Of course, I also have a lot of Kiss posters, because I've gone on the record on this channel saying Kiss is one of my all-time favorite bands. My all-time favorite band is, of course, Black Sabbath. But, you know, I had Kiss posters, and I had Zeppelin posters, and I had... There's so many cool bands I listened to. Zebra. There was Blue Murder. Of course, I was in college by that time. But, yeah, Sabbath and Ozzy, those were the guys. And the thing is, I was inspired by Randy Rhoads to take classical guitar. I never really actually learned to play like Randy, though. You know, I was in a band, and we knew the songs. I learned the riffs, the solos and stuff. I was never much into that type of playing as much as I enjoy listening to it. But listening today, I think I'm actually... Part of it was because the solos always scared me. And as much as possible, I've always tried not to use tablature. And that's my classical guitar training, I think. It's like, oh, I don't need tablature. I'll look at... I'll either do it by ear or I'll look at the sheet music itself. However, the older I get as a guitar player, I've started investigating a lot of Renaissance and Baroque lute music in the original tablature. You kind of have to tune the guitar slightly differently to be able to play the tablature off the page. And so there's a part of me that's thinking, hey, you know what? In the evenings when I'm not doing anything, I might sit down and actually learn some Randy solos. As I was listening to some of them today, I thought, oh, I can play that. I might not have been able to do it when I was 20, 25. But I've had so many experiences as a musician since then that I think I can probably work some things out. So I might sit down with some Randy Rhoads solos. Now, Jake still scares me. I'm not sure listening to Jake I can figure out some of the stuff he was doing. Some of the Randy stuff, because I do play classical guitar and jazz, yeah, I think I can figure those lines out. Some of the Jake lines are just... They're like 5-dimensional blues things. I've been doing a series on 4-dimensional blues, but I just really think some of the stuff Jake was doing is way beyond my capacity to comprehend. But I think I'm going to go revisit some Randy things and learn the solos. I did it with the first 3 albums worth of Black Sabbath back when I was 18 or 19. So I think at 55 I'm going to try to see if I can figure out some Randy Rhoads lines. I think I've gone on a little too long now. I didn't really want to make this a video about me. I wanted to make this about Ozzy and Black Sabbath, but I just wanted to pay my respects to Ozzy and let everybody know that Ozzy got me through high school, got me through some hard times, got me through a lot of good times. That Ozzy in either solo capacity or the Black Sabbath capacity encouraged me to be a musician, to be myself, to try to not sound like everyone else, to do my own thing, and to be happy if I don't sound like somebody else. And so I think the ultimate thing I take away from Ozzy is don't be like Ozzy, become Ozzy. In other words, don't try to be like somebody else, be your own thing, be your own Ozzy. Except my Ozzy's named Dave, your Ozzy's named Phil, your Ozzy's named Alice. Be your own Ozzy. So, I know I rambled for a bit, and I don't think I can say anything else. I'm glad I didn't break down bawling in the middle of the video. Not that I would be ashamed of that, but it just makes it hard to narrate when you're trying to choke back some fierce emotion. So anyway, Rest in peace, Ozzy. As the British would say at the death of the king is dead. Long live the king. Ozzy is dead. Long live Ozzy. Up the irons. Any other big motto you can think of. But Ozzy is dead. Long live Ozzy. I'll see you next time.